guys, welcome to yet another episode of Microsoft ERP Beginners Tutorial Series. In this episode, we are going to discuss about the prerequisite setup that are required for us to proceed with the purchase requisition process in Microsoft Dynamics 365 for finance and operation. Even before creating a purchase requisition, we have certain prerequisites like your user needs to be linked to a person or an employee, and your workflow needs to be enabled and so on. So we will explore all those prerequisites that are required in this particular episode. So let's get started with the prerequisites. So for creating a purchase requisition, you might need to get into the procurement and sourcing module. We have already covered about the purchase order in the previous episodes. So let's expand. Let's collapse the purchase order and expand the purchase requisition. So this entire section is for the purchase requisition. So if I get into the all purchase requisitions, then I will be able to see all the purchase requisition records that are available in the system. So the purchase requisition, all purchase requisition form is a global form, so which it will display the purchase requisition from all the companies in the system. So even if I go to another legal entity from my current legal entity to, let's say, DEMF legal entity, you will be still seeing the same list of purchase requisition because the purchase requisition is again a global record. It is visible from all the companies, like as you can see. So now let me go back to our company, which is ADC Motor. You will still see the same list of purchase requisitions. Yeah. So, and one more of specialty about the purchase requisition is even though the purchase requisition itself is a global record, which is viewed from all the legal entity, but if you get into one of the purchase requisition record, you will see that every line within the purchase requisition has a buying legal entity option. So you can change the legal entity within the purchase requisition lines. Okay. So why do we have this option or this flexibility is, let's say that you have an office and you wanted to purchase some laptops and some computer desktops, monitors and chairs for your employees, and you're requesting your preparer, who is a part of a headquarters legal entity, to go ahead and purchase on your behalf. So your preparer will go and add those chairs and tables and choose the relevant company over here. You will still be able to see the purchase requisition record because it's a global form, and the preparer will still be having a flexibility to choose the table and chair and the related entity. Let's say another legal entity is also requesting for the laptops and tables, then the preparer can go ahead and add the chair as another line and go ahead and choose the relevant entity. So the preparer or whoever the clerk is on the headquarters office can create a one purchase requisition with different lines of chairs, and every chair lines are specific to different legal entities. So this purchase requisition then later get into the approval into a workflow for a managers to approve. The purchase requisition is mandatory for a purchase requisition to have a workflow. There's no option to turn off the workflow when it comes to purchase requisition. The workflows are mandatory in a purchase requisition. So then it will go for an approval to a manager, and the manager later convert a purchase requisition, approve it, and then release a purchase requisition and convert it into a purchase order. And then the purchase order that gets created will be released into the relevant legal entity, right? So every line, if it's representing a different legal entity, then different purchase order will be released into the relevant legal entity, and those purchase order documents are specific to the legal entity and they are not global, right? So this is the overall flow or a process of a purchase requisition. Purchase requisition need not be necessarily always for an internal purchase of a computer or laptop. It can even be a inventory stocks or inventory item like your motorbikes or spare part that you buy. For a certain spare part, you always have a process of creating a purchase requisition and then converting into purchase order. It's all depend on the business processes of your company, but in general, the purchase requisitions are normally raised for the internal purchases and all for your fixed asset purchases. Okay, but more on the purchase requisition about the various options, we will look into it when we are into a topic of creation of purchase requisition in the next episode. Okay, this episode is only the prerequisites that are required for us to go ahead with the purchase requisition topic. Okay, so let's get started with the prerequisites. So the first prerequisite is, as you can notice in this particular form, the new button is disabled. So which means that as a user in the system, even though I'm a system administrator, I will not be able to create a purchase requisition at the moment. Okay, that's because of a missing setup. So let's just start with that prerequisite. Prerequisite number 1 is to fix this new issue. So how do we fix it? That's because your user ID in the system administrator should always be linked to a person or an employee in the system. So let's do is let's get into the system admin module and get into the user and try to search for our user, which is Muhammad Yasser, and I see that my user is not having any person over here. Okay, it should either have a person or an employee. So let me create an employee for myself in the system. That is done in the HR module. So let me, do not worry much about the HR module. We will have a look at it in a separate series, but for now I'm only going to quickly create an employee in HR module. So that's the employee record. Muhammad Yasser is my name. Employment start date is from 1st of September. And my position, I'm going to just assign some random position, materials manager. So that is the SMS start date and date. Click on the hire button and the employee will be created in the system. Yeah, I have an employee in the system. So now I can go into the workflow here and edit it and try to put and map the employee in the drop down field. So let me Muhammad, and that's my employee that I've just created. I'm assigning it to my user. You can even create a party as a person and assign it, so that's fine. So in this case I'm assigning a employee. Yeah, so now if I go into the purchase requisition, all purchase requisition, I will see that the new button is now enabled. Okay, so this is one prerequisite that we've already fixed. So now let's get with another mandatory thing, which is our workflow, right? So if I get into my purchase procurement and sourcing workflow, I already have so many workflows that are this is one workflow related with the purchase requisition, the another workflow related with the purchase requisition. So I have many workflows related with the purchase requisition already available in the system, but for the sake of this demo, let's create a new workflow for the purchase requisition, and maybe let's introduce some of the options in the workflow in this episode which we have not covered in the purchase order workflow in some of our past episodes. So let's create a new purchase requisition workflow. So click on the new button. Purchase requisition review is the purchase requisition workflow. Click on it and click on the open button. So that will open a pop-up screen. So it will ask to fill the username. So I'm just typing the username in another monitor. Okay, I keyed in the credentials. Now I'm waiting for my workflow editor window to open up. It takes a couple of minutes. Yeah, I got it. So that's the window. So now let's get started with the purchase requisition workflow. So we know that last time in the purchase order workflow, we used approve purchase order. Similarly, we have approve purchase requisition here. So before getting into the purchase order requisition, let me introduce you the conditional decisions concept. So if you remember in the previous episode, while creating a purchase order workflow, we had defined some conditions within the steps, that is within the approval steps itself. So similarly, it is also possible to define a condition even before we get into the approval steps through using the conditional decision node. So so let me just click this and click on the properties, and let's now create a conditional decision. So in my example, I'm going to make a condition decision as if my purchase requisition reason code is A, then it will go here. If my purchase reason code is not filled, then it will go to another path, so that's going to be my setup for now. So now let's see, let's create a condition with the purchase requisition reason code. So the purchase requisition reason code is, if the reason code is general supply, okay, which means that I'm choosing the purchase requisition as a general supply. So then, which means I need an approval from a manager, okay. Or if it is also, maybe I will also choose another, no, let me delete it. Let me choose or. Purchase requisition reason code is general supply or location renovation, okay. In either of this case, it will need a approval from a senior manager, okay. So if either of this condition is true, then it needs an approval from a senior manager. If either of this condition is false, then it will require an approval from a purchase manager, okay. So that's going to be my condition decision at the moment. So how do we do that? Is let's do this as a condition. Let me change the condition as if general supplies or location renovation, okay. If either of this is true, then it will go here. If false, then it will go here, okay. So that's my condition. Okay, I think okay, yeah, that's the condition here. Let me quickly show you again. Here is the condition. I'm closing it. At the moment I get the error here and here because of the lack of the arrow, but that all will be resolved shortly. Okay, so now let's bring our approval node here, and let me just connect them. So which means if this is true, then it will go here for approval by my senior manager. Senior, oh no, maybe I'll say manager approval required, okay. You can even give some automatic action if you want here, just in case if you do not want a manager approval. If the value is below $1,000 or something, you can define it here so that it can automatically be approved, right? So, but I'm not going to complicate it and confuse you. So at the moment, I'm going to keep it very simple. So that's my approval step, and double click it. And now I'm going to define who is my senior manager. Who is my manager who will be approving if my condition is true, right? So for that, just click on it and say okay, and PR workflow, and please approve my PR number. So like last time we used purch ID, and this time we need to use the purchase requisition number. So let's find the relevant field, which is this one, purchase requisition dot purchase requisition ID, and insert it, okay. And now I'm going to use user, and I'm going to select myself as a manager who will be approving it if the reason code is selected. So that one selected, this is no need, and this one I'm going to use it for a single user only. Okay, so this is done. Close it. Okay, and there is an error here because I have an error in the previous step, so that's why. So just because I'm missing the other path, so let me just connect this to start with. So this error is resolved. So if I get in, there's no error now. So likewise, if the condition is false, then I can even pull another condition if the condition is false to check if the price or the purchase requisition vendor is missing or something. I can even use another condition over here. But no, in this case, I'm going to keep it simple. So I will use another approval option and just connect them together and double click it, select property. Now senior manager approval requires because there's no reason code selected. Senior manager approval is needed in this case. Let me PR workflow. You can type a meaningful text here. Please approve my PR. Sorry. Please approve my PR number. So you can choose a PR number like we did in the previous episode. Sorry, in the previous node. It's rather easier to copy the message from the previous node and paste it here instead of just searching. It's okay, I'm not able to find it, that's fine. Yeah, so I hope you understand what I mean here. So you can just go ahead and put a placeholder there. And still, this need to be a senior manager that needs to be assigned for this, but I do not have access to any other user, or I cannot log in as a senior manager. So for just time being, I'm using it, assigning it to myself. And there's no condition required for this node because the condition is already available and we've separate condition node that's been selected. Yeah, so that's done, and just go one level up and make sure that it is connecting so that the error is resolved. So which means that if it is true, then it goes here and assigns it to a manager. If it is false, then it goes here and assigns it to a senior manager. I can even change it to senior manager approval required. Okay, so that's senior manager. So that's the about the conditional decision that we can use. So then it's end. Is there any error? There is a small warning over here, so let me just click on it and go there and check. So it says to just give some instructions. So please approve my PR number. Okay, that's it. There's no more errors. Okay, that's just a warning, so let me just ignore it for time being, but we can just quickly review if Okay, that's the workflow owner in this example. Okay, that's done. So that's about the purchase order, I'm sorry, the workflow creation for the purchase requisition. So now the next step is save and close version 1, say okay. I'm not going to activate now for time being because I want to show something, and closed, right? So if I refresh it, I will get another ID here. So that's going to be my new purchase requisition workflow. So this one is the new purchase requisition workflow, and it's organization wide. It will be available everywhere. And at the moment, this is a default workflow for purchase requisition, but I want to make this as a default workflow. So let me just set as default. So this will become a default workflow. And also I'm going to just disable the previous workflow. So I'm going to make it inactive, and I'm going to activate the current workflow, right? So get into the version and activate the current workflow, so that whenever I'm going to create a purchase requisition, this workflow will be triggered automatically or picked up automatically by the purchase requisition. So that is my second prerequisite. It's very, very important in a case of a purchase requisition. So and in the case of purchase requisition, just like a purchase order, you do not have any change management checkbox to be activated, because you do not have any choice to turn off the purchase requisition workflow, because the purchase requisition workflow is mandatory. It is always on. So whenever I go ahead and create a purchase requisition, it is by default will be created in a draft status. Okay, so further into the purchase requisition process, and how do we create a purchase requisition, and what are the various options within a purchase requisition, like a preparer, requester, how do we set up all those, and also how does the workflow gets picked up, and what happens after the workflow is triggered, and how does the purchase requisition gets converted into a purchase order, and all these things are for the next episode. So continue watching, and see you again in the next episode.